And as always, your views and comments are welcome on this show. Look for us on our social media handles. Join us on TV, on Facebook, and on Twitter. The hashtag is The Pulse. My name is Francis Hammond. Once again, you're welcome. Now, the Chief Justice, Georgina Thedera Wood, has stated that the Justice for All program needs a complete overhaul to ensure its effectiveness. At the first stakeholders workshop since the inception of the program, Mrs. Wood revealed that though it has saved lots of persons from unduly lavishing in jail and saved the government purse, it has been fraught with difficulties that has impeded its success. She revealed this at the first stakeholders workshop on the successes and weaknesses of the Justice for All program.
Admittedly, over the years, the Justice for All program has sought to remedy some of these acts of gross miscarriage of justice. But something more fundamental, something more far-reaching needs to be done. The system is crying for a radical overhaul in terms of the procedural law in particular, and the sanctions to be applied following conviction. One such important statutory intervention, which I believe would definitely help bring sanity into the criminal justice system, and therefore prison congestion, is the following. It has to do with the issue of non-adoption of proceedings in partly heard criminal cases. I propose that the adoption of proceedings in partly heard criminal cases, as is the position in civil cases, certainly in relation to the large number of criminal cases which are heard in the lower court, would, without doubt, bring relief to the entire system. I would propose that we should, at this workshop, think of coming out with a manual or a handbook which will clearly set out the processes and procedures under which the Justice for All program operates.
Now, since its inception some 9 years ago, the Justice for All program has attended to over 3,000 prisoners. It has also discharged some 672 inmates, granted bail to some 985, and convicted 135 prisoners. But how exactly does the Justice for All program work? Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Garte, explains.
The program had under it 4 projects. These were the Remand Review Project, the Sentencing Policy Project, the Systems Analysis Project, and the Prosecutors Training Project. I must confess that at the same time the Justice for All program was launched, we launched 2 other programs which have died. One, Human Rights for all, another one, Economic Development for all. Both of them have died, but Justice for All, thanks to the CJ and others, have survived. But all these projects were developed to address the problem of overcrowding in our prisons and the delivery of justice generally. The Remand Review Project within the Justice for All program, which has gained prominence or in some cases become synonymous with the Justice for All program, was supposed to be a program which was supposed to have an end. It was a stopgap measure to deal with the immediate problem of prison congestion, while the other projects were supposed to create an environment where the problem of prison congestion will become a thing of the past. The Sentencing Policy Project, for example, was to address the problem of sentencing and non-custodial sentencing, and therefore reduce the number of people who are going to enter into prisons. The Prosecutors Training Program was to address the problem of the training of non-lawyer prosecutors to ensure that they become sensitive to the question of sentencing and non-custodial sentencing. And the Systems Analysis Project was to analyze the whole justice delivery system from arrest to sentencing or acquittal. The Systems Analysis Project, for example, was to put the whole system on ICT platform. The idea was that anybody who was arrested anywhere would at once be recorded electronically. And there will be a central point where that person's continuous incarceration or release could be monitored either from the Attorney General's office, from the DPP's office, from the police, or from whatever institution that we set up for that purpose.
So we've heard from the Chief Justice mentioning why there is a need for a complete overhaul of the Justice for All program. Mr. Gatti has helped us to appreciate why this program is even important. And remember that for journalists, we've done a documentary on the state of our prisons and how a lot of remand prisoners stay there for what? Up to 10, 14 years without a fair trial. Well, in helping us appreciate why that total overhaul is important, Justice Jones, the chair of the Supreme Court, has mentioned today that one of the major problems has been that the justices have not completely complied with their objectives.
Even with the decision of the Supreme Court in the Martin Kpebu versus Attorney General case, many people continue to be remanded on daily basis for even bailable offenses. The statistics we received a couple of weeks ago indicated that as many as 124 cases in the category of stealing, causing harm, assault, unlawful entry, dishonestly receiving, continue to be remanded by our judges. And it is in this respect that I will ask my colleagues, Justice Onyenuga and his team, to ask for strengthening of their secretariat to ensure that the records from the prison service, they give us the most accurate data on those who are kept behind bars. And then we will follow up to find out the areas or the cause which continue to remand people on a daily basis in certain offenses.
So one thing is for sure, there is a need for a total overhaul. The justices know what to do and what the problem is. Let's just hope that all the issues within are sorted out so this overhaul is done so we can have this beautiful program be a success. Moving from this program to another important happening in the country, the transition that's ongoing. The co-chair of the transition team on the MPP side, Yaw Osafo-Maafo, says allegations of recruitment into the security services, the sale of government property and other issues have come to the attention of the incoming government and want the matter looked into. Mr. Osafo-Maafo raised these concerns at the first meeting of the transition team today.
We have heard from the grapevine a few things which have become our concern, talking about the incoming government team, the transition team. For instance, we have heard about ongoing recruitment into the security services now, which we hope is not true. We've heard of conversion of temporary staff, of political assistants, and some of the staff we took on into permanent public servants. We've heard of award of new contracts after the election results are announced on the 9th of December. We've heard of procurement of sales and national access also after the results. We do not want to believe that these allegations are true. I personally don't. And therefore, I'm asking my colleague, the Chief of Staff, that after the election and the results have been declared, and the change is not from the government handing over to itself. There are two modes of transition. One transition is the government handing over to itself, as it happened to us in 2004 and happened to NDC in 2012. But in 2000 and 2016, the government handing over to another political party's government. The system is a little different. We need to be cautious, we need to be transparent, we need to be candid, and we need to be factual. We are therefore appealing to our colleagues that within this period, if there's anything that needs to be done, consultation have to be brought on board. Consultation meaning that the office of the president-elect is there, and if there's a need for an agreement to be concluded, it is only fair, and it's international convention that you bring in the in-waiting government, discuss, and get a green light to carry it out. We hope our colleagues from the current government would take note of these normal conventions and do a lot of consultation on these matters so that we have a very smooth and transparent takeover.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, says the handing over notes will be ready on Monday.
Transitions, as we've seen in the past, sometimes, comes with a little bit of heckling here and there, but this time around, both of us from both sides of the divide have agreed in principle that we have to try as much as possible for this to be one of the smoothest transitions that we've ever experienced. We're doing that with as much transparency as possible and as much openness to each other. Now, one of the main reasons why we are here today is to establish the various committees as required by the law, and then to also agree amongst ourselves other subcommittees that we think will be very relevant as far as the transition is concerned. As we speak now, we have almost all the handing over notes ready, and the reason is this. Per the law, all the handing over notes were supposed to be ready by September. But as we all agree, between September and December, naturally, a few things might have taken place. And so we agreed amongst ourselves to get everything that needed to be tied up done. But the good news is that as we speak now, the handing over notes from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Transport, Chieftaincy, Food and Agriculture, Fisheries, Interior and Defense are ready. And we'll make sure that the others that are left will also be ready by Monday, as has been agreed between myself and my senior colleague. So they will all be ready, and then based on that, we'll decide on how to proceed after the maiden meeting. So basically, this is from our side what I want to get across, but we also want to draw the attention to the various spokespersons from the two sides that in order for us to, I believe, I don't want to say the media, but I believe some people will want us to continue the campaign mode. But I think since we're shifting from campaign mode to governance mode, as much as possible, we should try and, control what we say so as to ensure that the transition does not veer off from the responsibility that we have to the normal things that goes on. And so we've resolved the two leadership that the two spokespeople, if there are anything you are not too sure of, please clear with either myself or Honorable Osafo Mafo, so as to ensure that we are making sure everything goes as planned.
So we've heard from both leaders of the transition teams for the government side and also the incoming administration. But what exactly is in this process of transition? Well, Alton Bobe, one who's monitoring this meetings going on, which started today, joins me in the studio. Alton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
First of all, we know that there are 4 key functions that the team is supposed to look at in the work it's doing. Yeah. What are these functions?
Let me just quote to you what is contained in the Presidential Transition Act and what this committee is expected to do. 1, they are to make comprehensive practical arrangement to regulate in accordance with this act the transfer of political power following a presidential election and a general election. 2, to ensure the provision of daily national security briefing for the person elected as president during the period before the assumption of office by the person elected as president. 3rd, to ensure that the salaries, allowances, facilities, privileges, and the retiring benefit or awards as determined by the president and parliament for those, the Article 71 holders, are paid and not delayed unduly. And finally, to undertake any other function which will enable the committee to achieve the act. Now, in their deliberation and coming into a decision on any particular matter, it is to be based on consensus. When they are unable to reach a consensus, they have to refer the matter to the advisory committee to act on it going forward.
Okay. Now, for today's meeting, we've heard from leaders of both sides when they addressed the media, but what exactly happened today?
Well, today was for the government side to hand over the notes of some ministries. We are told that 7, including the finance, employment, and other key ministries, their handover notes were handed to the MPP side. They have from now till Monday to go through whether if they have any question to ask. They will have to put that question before them by Monday. Now, for Yao Safuma, for the finance ministry is key because, for example, if Ghana if Ghana must pay some kind of money or meet some obligation and it's time bound, it will be good for them to be aware so that this transition does not delay that particular commitment. So they've gone into groups, defense, energy, and other key sectors of the economy, and they are to look at these documents and then report back to the general committee on Monday. For if there are questions to be asked, that will be the time for them to ask these questions. So they are from now to Monday to really go into what government has presented to them, and if they have concerns, Monday will be the time for them to address these issues.
We know that two individuals spoke beyond what we've heard from Mr. Osafo Mafu and Mr. Julius Deba, the Chief of Staff. Hannah Tete has some words to share today. What was it about? Well,
the question was about the allegation raised by Yao Osafo Mafu that they are aware or they've been told that there's ongoing recruitment into the security agencies. There are, some new contracts being awarded. Some people who were on a temporary government employment but been given permanent status, and some other issues, some overnight contracts. So we asked her to respond to this particular issue because the Chief of Staff was not given an opportunity when Yao Osafo Mafu raised these concerns. Now, she admitted that there's ongoing enlistment into the Ghana Armed Forces. Indeed, the Ghana Armed Forces has put forth a notice for people to apply if they meet certain criteria put forth. And she's saying that this will not end now. It will go into the new administration. But relating to the other allegations, unless the MPP is able to bring evidence to back what they are talking about, she will not be able to respond to them directly. We can listen to Hannah on her response.
We've had our first meeting. We have agreed on the composition of the committees of the transition. In the Presidential Transition Act, 3 committees are provided, but then there's also the opportunity to form other committees. So what we've done is that we've agreed on the committees. Some of the handing over notes have been made available. More will be made available in the course of the week. With the incoming government's team now have the opportunity to review those documents. We have agreed that the transition team will meet again next week, Monday. And so between now and then, we assume that the documentation that is made available to them will be reviewed, and if they have any questions on the government side, they are at liberty to ask us.
What do you foresee now that with the process, how it has begun, what do you foresee at the end of it?
Well, we are working to ensure a smooth process of handover. That is essentially what the establishment of a transition team is for, and what the work we are doing is geared towards. And so the processes that we have just begun are to ensure that we can have clarity between the two teams as to what was the position as at the time they will take office on 7th January, and therefore they know what it is that they have in hand, and now it will be the responsibility of the next government to work with that and build on it.
Do you envisage any difficulties or challenges?
Can I have
within?
one question at a time, please?
Okay. Do you envisage any difficulties or challenges within this transition period that you are meeting?
What I envisage is that as they go through the documentation, they may have questions. What is also the case is that whenever there's a handover from one government to another, there are always people who are in a hurry to try and build up relationships on the other side, and therefore might gratuitously provide information, which undoubtedly will be a source of questions. It's the reason why we have this structure that allows us to ask each other for information, to respond appropriately, so that whatever questions or concerns arise can be dealt with.
You also raised the concern that perhaps the NDC government, though you've lost the election, but there's some recruitment exercise are still ongoing. How are you reacting to these concerns?
Wars of contrast.
I have seen an advertisement in the papers suggesting that the Ghana Armed Forces is conducting a recruitment exercise. Now, they are advertising for people to apply. It is highly unlikely that that recruitment exercise will be concluded before the 7th of January, in which case the incoming administration will then have the responsibility and will have the oversight to see how the exercise is concluded. Remember that when we have a transfer of political power, the state of Ghana remains the state. Actions that were taken with the proper authorization prior to the election are actions on which those institutions can take further action, because at the time that they were authorized to do ABC, the persons who are giving them the authorization to do so had the legal mandate to be able to do so. The question really is to make sure that whatever exercise takes place in a transparent manner, and that if there are any concerns that the transition team wishes to raise, one would hope that it would be addressed. Now, as I said, I'm referring specifically to that Armed Forces advertisement because I have also seen it. I'm not aware of any other advertisements for recruitment. But as you all know, that when you have an advertisement, it is the beginning of the process. It is not the end of the process. So let's say that the Ghana Armed Forces has advertised that it is recruiting new staff. I don't believe that that process will be completed before the handover. I don't think it's practically possible, not with the way that the recruitment process takes place. If for one reason or the other the transition team have their concerns with it, the Ghana Armed Forces can be asked to suspend it.
So what about the issue of awards being contracts being awarded and also
I am not aware of any contracts being awarded. I'm not aware of sale of government properties. All sorts of things get thrown around at times like this. I think that if you address me with specific questions, I can then investigate from the respective ministries, departments and agencies and give you specific responses.
Well, there was no reaction from Deborah when Sanford raised those issues. So it's also raising some concern. We were expecting it didn't come that much. That's why.
No, but hold on. You have made a statement. Indeed, Mr. Deborah may or may not have had that information. He is therefore not in a position to react with a statement of yes or no. The information has been made available to him. He also should check it out. You've put questions before me. The ones that I am aware of, because I have seen it advertised, I have responded to. When you talk about contracts being awarded, I am not aware. If you can be specific and refer to a particular agreement, I will investigate and respond. Remember that I have responsibility for a sector ministry. I don't have responsibility for the entire government machinery. So even when you ask me a question, I will have to inquire and then be able to get back to you. But I don't have that information as of now.
All right, thank you. Good. All right.
So that's Foreign Affairs Minister Hannah Tete. She speaks for the government side of the transition team as deliberations continue. Elton, we know that the other man who speaks for the incoming administration's transition team, Mustafa Hamid, also had a few words to share today. What was it about?
Well, in brief, they are going to now study the documents presented to them by government, and if they have any questions, they will ask. What I've been told is that already they have some information. They will cross-check that with what government will present to them, and then on Monday, if they have concerns, they will put before the government representatives on the transition team going forward. Remember, they have to get some things done before the 7th of January, and after the 7th of January, there's another block of the transition team, activities that they have to finish before it is dissolved in 6 weeks' time.
Okay, so 6 weeks is the time they have.
Yes.
And that starts from when? Today?
Yeah, it started from when it was inaugurated.
Inaugurated on Sunday. Okay. Thank you so much, Elton Bobe, for these details.